background works right there.
Yeah, it's fine.
It works.
It's fine.
Yep, and the audio works good too.
Hey!
All right, yeah. See, look, audio works. Look, background works right there. That's fine.
Yeah, it's
All
fine.
right. Let's go live because we need a 2-hour podcast here.
Hopefully faster.
And welcome into another episode of the Media Boat Podcast, your weekly episodes of One Talk Top Talk of movies, TV, music, and video games. Not necessarily in that order. My name is Mike. His name is Matt.
My name is Top. No, my name is Matt. His name is Mike. Thank you for joining us. This is Media Boat Podcast for January the 21st, 2023. This is episode 367. Thank you for joining us for this speedy episode of Media Boat Podcast. Let's get rolling into it. We have a lot to talk about.
Oh, we're going to hit 2 hours easily on this podcast. We have a lot of thoughts.
We'll see. Let's start, as we always start.
Yes, with the music section. And we start the music section with the Billboard. And we start the Billboard with the Hot 100.
Yes.
And at number 1 is Anti-Hero by Taylor Swift.
Still continues to be Taylor's longest running number 1 single.
Just running, rolling.
Yeah.
You know, maybe she is the problem. At number 2 is Kill Bill by SZA.
Back at number 2.
At 3, Unholy by Sam Smith and Kim Petras.
Down to number 3 this week.
Coming in at 4, I'm Good, Blue by David Guetta and BB Rexha.
Staying in the same spot.
And creeping its way in number 5, Creepin' by Metro Boomin, The Weeknd, and 21 Savage.
Back in the top 5.
Yep.
So there you go.
As for your Billboard 200,
it's the same.
Chart, it is.
Nothing changed from last week.
Yeah, which means SOS by SZA is still your number 1 album.
Yep.
Midnight by Taylor Swift is at number 2. At number 3, Heroes and Villains by Metro Boomin. At 4, Her Loss by Drake and 21 Savage. And rounding up that top 5, Un Verano Sin Ti by Bad Bunny.
Okay.
But if you didn't like any of those albums, we have new releases.
Okay.
Starting with One Day by Fucked Up.
Yep, Fucked Up.
Yep, just one day.
Yeah.
We also have Small Town Stardust by King Tuff. Furling by Meg Baird. Gloria by Sam Smith.
Hey.
That's Sam Smith.
Yeah, that's Sam Smith.
Yep. Audio Lust and Higher Love by S.G. Lewis. Electrophonic Chronic by The Arcs. And Asking for a Ride by White Reaper. So, Sam Smith, big release?
Yeah, I guess that's your big release this week. We probably won't be checking that out. I don't know. If you want to, I guess.
I don't know. We'll get the thoughts about what I actually checked out this week.
But in the meantime, we started the news with
a unicorn.
A strange-ass story that I just thought was too funny to skip.
Yeah, it's so funny because it borders on both parody and lawsuits. So, Poopsie Slime Surprise. Yes, that is a brand of slime pooping unicorn.
Yeah.
That currently retails for about $100 to $300.
It's an expensive-ass pooping unicorn.
Yes. Well, that's because in addition to the pooping slime, the toy also dances to a song called My Poops. My Poops. My lovely, lovely poops.
Yes, something like that.
Whenever its heart-shaped belly button is pressed.
Same.
It does happen from time to time. The manufacturer, MGA Entertainment, has also produced an animated video in which the unicorn dances to the song.
However,
but BMG's lawyers alleges that My Poops infringes on Black Eyed Peas. This is not a surprise hit. Their 2005 hit single, My Humps. 75% of whose publishing rights belongs to BMG, thanks to a corporate acquisition.
Yeah.
The suit claims, and a review of each song's genius annotation confirms, that the two compositions bear a strong resemblance.
It's a ripoff, is basically what.
Well, yeah, it's a parody ripoff.
Yeah.
Quote, first, the title of the infringing work is My Poops, which is an obvious play on the name of the copyright composition, My Humps. Close quote. wrote BMG's lawyer, Seth L. Berman of Abraham Feinstein, LLP.
That's Abrams Finsterman, LLP.
Yeah, Abramson
So
Feinstein.
here's the question. You kind of brought this up. Does this fall under parody?
Yes, it does.
And if it does, technically they don't have a case, right?
Yeah.
So it really depends. I imagine they settle here, so that way this doesn't go any further. I bet just like MGA just like hands over some money and just says like, let's just forget this happened so we can continue marketing our stupid unicorn. Because I don't think it's just, I thought this was just such a funny story because like the Black Eyed Peas are probably over here being like, what's that unicorn saying?
Like, why are we trending with the unicorn?
Yeah, why are we trending? Fergie's probably somewhere taking a hot tub, like in a hot tub, being like, what? Why am I on Twitter? So yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those weird stories. But yeah, you're probably right. They'll figure out this is under parody law and it'll probably go away. But it's just silly.
Well, see, to prove it's under parody, you have to yes, versus paradise. Putty. You have to prove that it is indeed a joke and it is funny when a toy unicorn dances to a song called My Poops and thus poops. I think it's Rainbow Poops, right?
I think this conversation is proof enough. They should just replay this podcast in court and just be like, see, it's funny.
And then that will give us more viewers. Yes.
Yeah, see, it's a perfect crime. Anyway, so yeah, my poops. My poops, my lovely unicorn poops. I actually don't know how it goes. I haven't watched the video, but maybe I should.
I know it's a $300 video, apparently.
No, thankfully not. Anyways, let's move on.
Yes, let's move on to some actual music news involving an actual artist that's currently putting out music.
Correct.
Miley Cyrus.
Yes.
So if anyone's actually looking for statistical proof that Miley Cyrus put out a new song, Flowers, is the name of the song. Well, it's a certified smash hit because you can look at Spotify's announcement that the song Flowers has broken the record for the most streams in a single week. Spotify announced on Friday morning that as of Thursday, Flowers had become the most streamed song in a 7-day period in Spotify history.
This is weird because I have not heard this song at all.
Well, that's okay because as of Friday morning, the latest update for Cyrus's Flowers streams on the site showed that it had racked up 101 million streams since coming out late in the day on January 12th. On Thursday, it reached the 100 million point faster than any other song ever to date on Spotify.
Damn.
Quote, "It's been incredible watching Flowers break the record for most streams in a single week," said Jana Coffey, Spotify's artist and label partnership lead, in a statement to Variety. The song was already off to an amazing start after its first day, and it's only grown from there. Rather than seeing massive streams on day one that decline throughout the week, each day since release has been bigger than the one before. Miley is back, and with her album, Endless Summer Vacation, coming out in a few months, this is just the beginning.
So yes, a little slow music week this week. The big story was, again, a death, so I really couldn't grab a whole lot. But yeah, I just thought this was interesting for a song that I've never actually heard that apparently is blowing up.
It's okay. If Spotify is to be counted and trusted, I guess that means that we can see it on the Hot 100 next week.
Yeah, I would imagine it probably charts pretty high thanks to streaming numbers. Yeah, Miley's back. I don't know. Her career has been interesting because I feel like she pops up every couple of years and then like disappears for the next two. Mm-hmm. And you just have to like follow these. Also, she's like in a different genre every time.
Well, this is why she does the Miley's New Year's, just to remind you every year.
It still exists.
She's still there.
I'm still around. Still party. Dolly Parton is still my godmother.
Yes.
It's like just routine reminders.
Yep.
Anyway, so yeah, that's a story.
Hey, it also means that Miley Cyrus is going to put out a new album later this year.
Yes, that's true.
So I guess we can look forward to Endless Summer Vacation.
Yeah, sure. Let's go with that. Let's move on.
Someone will be listening to it.
You listen to something, speaking of listening.
Speaking of listening, I listened to something else.
Yes.
So I was looking up on new releases and trying to find something to listen to because, I haven't really done a new music release in a while.
Yeah.
While I was looking through it, I just came across some of like the traditional names, and I just had this thought to myself, we always try and listen to like the big artists put out the newest album. Well, except for you. You always listen to like, the random stuff.
Wasn't this some bullshit? But yeah.
I don't know if it's bullshit, but it's definitely the offbeat stuff. The off counter. The counter offer?
Counter offer.
Off counter offer. Put those two words in however you want.
Something like that. But anyway, so you went you did some digging, is what you're saying.
I did some digging. No, I didn't really do that much digging. I just found this band that's putting out their debut album on Apple Music.
Okay.
The Heavy Hours.
All right.
With the album, The Heavy Hours.
I have not heard about this. I don't know who these people are.
I didn't either.
Okay.
But I listened to them.
All right.
And it's alternative music. It's alternative rock.
Okay.
I wasn't expecting it. I was just, okay, let's see what we got here. Turn it on. It's definitely alternative rock. It definitely got very good vibes of like the Lumineers.
Okay. So that kind of thing.
And also the Black Keys.
Sure. Okay.
So it's definitely like the new wave of alternative rock. A lot of it is very heartfelt and hard-hitting messaging, especially in all of its lyrics.
Okay.
None of it is like hard rock, hard pop, like your why can't I think of Imagine Dragons?
Because you just did.
Oh, there we go. Yes. Because I cannot imagine the dragons.
You can't imagine those dragons.
No. So it's not like Imagine Dragons, it's not Foo Fighters. It's definitely like that alternative pop, like I said, much the same way of like the Lumineers, Death Cab for Cutie at the time.
Sure. Okay.
So it's actually pretty good. I really like all their lyrics. Right. It's only their second album. They're based on.
It was their debut.
Well, they put out an EP. This is their LP.
Okay, there you go.
The EP is also on Spotify, but it's also like 6 songs. This is their LP, which is 10 songs, full 40-minute album.
Yeah,
it's actually pretty good. I actually liked it.
Cool.
I actually went back to the top after I started it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the lyrics are just like very hard hitting. They're just very emotional. Some of it is a bit of like the heartbreak stuff, but a lot of it is like family, dealing with family loss. This album was made post-COVID, so I think a lot of it had to do with it. A lot of like what I wish I said. Why didn't you listen to me? I'm my own person now. So if you're into the alt rock scene, check out the Heavy Hours. It's a surprise band. I was surprised by listening to it.
That's right.
But it's there. If you like, especially if you like the Lumineers and that kind of soft rock sound, right. Soft rock alternative sound.
Yeah,
that's exactly what the vibe that they're going for.
Okay, well there you go. Brand new band. Hopefully we break them. No, like, you heard it here, Media Boat Podcast.
Yes. Well, I heard it there, and then you heard it here.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yes.
Anyway, well, cool. I guess I should note a couple things that I listened to. Well, one's not really out, but I should mention it because it was news this week. But yeah, first of all, I finally listened to that Margo Price record. It's all right. I had an okay time with it. I don't think I'm going to do a write-up for it. I didn't like it that much, but and I probably don't have much to say about it. But it's still very much in the alt country vein. She's like, hard to describe. But yeah, like a lot of it's a kind of a good vibe, like a good old country kind of stuff. Then there's a couple songs that go into ballad territory, and she talks about some heavy issues where I was like, oh, this is kind of surprising. A little change up the vibe here towards the end of the record. But overall, I'm still not sure how I feel about Margo Price. I don't love her style. I am not 100% on board, but people who do like her approach, I think will have a good time with this record. It's a little bit more straightforward, I think, than the last couple. And yeah, it's out there, but yeah, I wasn't huge on it. I was like, yeah, this is fine. And then the other thing that I said, like I said, it's not out yet, but the Phoebe Bridgers, Lucy Dacus, and Julian Baker supergroup Boy Genius announced, which we mentioned last week, we're going to Coachella, did indeed announce a new record called The Record that's due out in March, on March 31st.
So are all three of them on the record?
Yes, they are on the record. So yeah, they will be putting that out in March, and they released 3 songs off the record as kind of like a preview. And so I listened to that. Still great. They're awesome. I can't wait to hear more from them. And yeah, we'll be probably Fast forward to March, and I'll probably talk more about it when it comes out.
Yep. So that album will come out in March,
Yes.
the month before they hit Coachella.
Right before Coachella. So yeah, perfect timing for them. So yeah, that's exciting. Also, Rolling Stone did a cover story about them and an interview. So if you want to learn more about the three of them, you can check that cover story out. They did it in the style of the Nirvana cover from 1994.
Ooh.
So it's the three of them in the same photo shoot wearing similar costumes as the 94 photo Rolling Stone shoot for Nirvana. It's fun. You should look.
Well, that's only 30 years old.
Yeah, I know. Only almost 30 years old. Well, yeah, so it's cute. And of course, Phoebe Bridgers is the Kurt Cobain. Let's move on. So that's all I listened to. So yeah, I think we can move on.
Yeah. So let's go right into video games. And we start with new releases.
Yes.
Two
bangers.
Two big releases this week.
All right.
First up is Dead Space.
Yes, the remake.
Yes. For PS5, Xbox Series X, and PC.
Uh-huh. And then the other?
The other one has not been released to critics yet.
Right.
Sorry. This one is Forspoken.
Yes.
For the PS5 and PC.
We talked about the demo for this. This is the Square Enix Isekai.
Parkour in a fantasy world.
Yeah. So
magic and attack.
Let me ask you your opinion here. Should I pull the trigger on the GameFly subscription now and try out one of these? Should we actually? Basically, I'm asking a coverage meeting here. Should we cover these games? Because I don't know if we should. Because I don't know. They're kind of in the middle. They're not the hugest releases, but they are relatively big. So I'm like, I just don't know if I'm actually going to enjoy it. I played a little bit of the original Dead Space, and I remember enjoying it at the time. It's a strong third-person shooter with some cool, like Metroidvania like elements to it. If it's anything like the original, which I imagine it will be, since it's a pretty close remake, I might have a good time with Dead Space. However, Forspoken, I've heard some mixed things about, specifically with reactions to the demo. Be kind of mixed. I'm not really sure. That sounds like more of a you game than a me game.
It's definitely more of a me game. I was definitely like high on it when the first premiered.
Right.
But since playing the demo and reading like other people's thoughts on it, my hype on it has gone way down.
So yeah, now I'm wondering like if I pull the trigger now, then unfortunately my 6 months will be ending in like the last week of July.
Yeah.
So that puts me out of that 6 months range for the fall season.
I mean,
unless I start paying for it myself, which I could. I don't know. It's tricky.
Or you can donate it to our Patreon.
Hey,
I
actually don't know if that still exists.
Somewhere it still exists.
Anyways, so yeah, I don't know. I'll have to think about it because I don't know really if I am that badly, if I'm that interested in Dead Space.
Right. I mean,
Well, I'll think about it off camera.
We'll think about it off camera.
We'll see.
In the meantime,
yes,
we have some gaming news.
We do.
Well, we have some sad news.
We have this was a rough week for people who work for tech companies.
It was a rough 3 days.
Specifically, yeah.
Yeah, as 3 of the biggest tech companies had massive layoffs.
So Microsoft, Google, and you said Amazon?
Amazon.
All 3 had mass layoffs this week. All 3 companies citing basically forecasting a less fruitful season than I guess they anticipated, and thus having to cut costs. And in fact, it wasn't just tech companies. We also see this hit internet corporations as well. We saw Fandom, the owners of GameSpot and Giant Bomb, also have to do layoffs for editorial staff. We saw a couple people leave Giant Bomb. We had a few art people from GameSpot leave. So yeah, it was just a rough week for people in and around the tech sector. But Microsoft, specifically Phil Spencer, Xbox's head of gaming, had some things to say about it.
Yeah, because he addressed this week's round of job cuts at the company, telling staff that they were painful choices. On Wednesday, Microsoft confirmed plans to lay off approximately 4.5% of the U.S. technology giants' 220,000 person workforce, which translates to about 10,000 people. Eventually, this was confirmed to have affected the company's gaming divisions, in particular, Halo developer 343 Industries, Bethesda Game Studios, and marketing. On Friday, Phil Spencer sent out a company-wide email obtained and published by Kotaku in which he told employees the cuts would set it up for long-term success. Quote, "This has been a difficult week across Microsoft and here inside our teams. Now that many of the one-on-one and team conversations have happened, I want to take a moment to reiterate the message that you heard from your leaders. This is a challenging moment in our business, and this week's actions were painful choices. The gaming leadership team had to make decisions that we felt set us up for the long-term success of our products and business. But the individual results of those decisions are real. I know that hurts. Thank you for supporting our colleagues as they process these changes."
So, a few things about the story. First of all, this was only half of Phil Spencer showing his ass this week.
Yep.
The other half of this story and the other half of the statement was basically Phil Spencer saying, "Oh, well, we understand that making games in this current climate of cancellation and whatever else he said, is difficult. So I want to congratulate people who are still putting out games." Like, what the hell are you talking about, Phil Spencer?
He's the publisher, though.
So it was a bad week for him. It sure looked really bad to us. But yeah, this is of course embarrassing. Like they know that this is brutal, and there's no actual data showing that this is going to lead to better games or long-term success of products. Because what the theory about this is that it just so happens that this announcement of the layoffs happened exactly 1 year after Microsoft put out the statement that they were going to purchase Activision.
Mhm.
So I imagine probably a lot of this forecasting and this rewiring the forecast has to do with Microsoft being on pins and needles about the acquisition. Before, they thought it was such a going to happen, sure thing, that they probably forecasted, oh, well, we're going to make $1 billion at the end of the year. Of course, more than that, but you know what I mean. At the end of the year, because we're going to have all these other this IP, we're going to finalize this deal in July, which is still their target. And so by the end of the year, it's going to be great. And now that they have to say, actually, we can't rely on that happening because the FCC is now involved.
Well, also the European Commission as well.
Right.
But I wonder how much of that is that, well, we need to save money now because we're going to have to pay off people later that we're going to need out of the company.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, don't get me wrong. I understand media boat phrase, it's a business.
It's a business.
But at the same time, and I've had personal experience with this in the last year.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, though, people are the reason why work gets done in a company. 343 Industries is a perfect example of this. Those poor guys have been through the ringer on Halo Infinite. They've done what they can on that game, and they keep running into delays and roadblocks trying to do service to the fans of Halo. And it's been troubled. Development has been troubled over there for all sorts of reasons. And Microsoft's reaction to that, instead of actually helping them out, is actually, we're going to fire a bunch of people or lay off a bunch of people on your team. So the thing you wanted to do with the game to get it back on track, to get fans excited about it again and make us money, well, it's going to be even harder to do now because we're going to take resources away from you. They don't realize that, yes, money is money. I get it. You want to cut costs if you're trying to save money as a corporation. However, where are you cutting from? Somebody brought up yesterday a perfect example of what you should be doing in this case. Back in the 2000s, when Satoru Iwata was still president of Nintendo, he cut his salary by 40% in order to keep the company down going, because he said he had a quote about layoffs just hurt us. Layoffs just hurt our ability to make better projects, make better games in the future. So why would we shoot ourselves in the foot by laying off talented creatives when instead the people on top could take the hit?
Because the CEO still need to make $30 million.
So if anything, I think this is the moment where the Phil Spencer tipping point happens, Like Phil Spencer is an easy guy to like. He's charming. He says a lot of the right things in
Yes, but
interviews.
look
He's
at his
very like
actions.
honest.
Look at the actions.
But you have to remember, he's still a CEO at a huge company. He's still, the guy that the money people are looking at and be like, yeah, how are you going to make us money, huh?
He's also no Reggie Fils-Aimé.
No, he's not. And so, yeah, and he's no Iwata either. And
Sure.
so it's like, it's hard to, this is a good reminder, I think, to a lot of people who are big fans of the Xbox, about the Xbox brand, is Phil Spencer is not your friend either. He's basically like your boss too. He's just like your boss, and he's going to make boss-like decisions like this, and it's gonna suck. It's gonna suck because he's always gonna have his hands forced by the board, by the people, like the money people, by people that he can't, he has to answer to. And even though he plays a good game about being the games buddy and your friend and like talking up the talking points you want to hear from somebody who makes games, eventually something like this is going to happen and he's going to be forced.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, lousy. And of course, our hearts go out to everybody who's lost their job this week in all of these companies. Hope you find your footing. Hope there's jobs out there for you. It's a brutal market right now. Good luck is, I guess, what I'll say.
Yeah. I mean, all of this layoffs happened just after a massive hiring from all these companies too.
And for what now? It's just brutal. Business is brutal.
And it's just a turnaround revolving door.
It always is.
Always has been.
Anyways,
let's talk about even worse news, shall we?
Well, I mean, this is not as bad, I guess, in comparison. We had the bad Ubisoft story last week. This is more of the head of Ubisoft having to
answer to
cover up his ass after showing his ass.
Oh, yes, because Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot reportedly opened a company-wide Q&A on Wednesday by apologizing for recent comments he made, which have been poorly received by developers. In an email sent to employees last week, coinciding with the announcement of a product delay, cancellations, and reduced earnings forecast, Guillermo reportedly suggested the onus was on workers to deliver on the company's latest targets in order to reverse its fortunes. Last week, Ubisoft, as we reported, Ubisoft said it had delayed Skull and Bones to the next fiscal year, which begins in April and runs through March 2024. During this period, it's also planning to release Assassin's Creed Mirage, Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora, and other yet-to-be-announced premium games, including a large one, as well as a promising free-to-play titles of some of the biggest brands. In his email to staff, which was, again, viewed by Kotaku, Guillermo wrote, quote, "The ball is in your court to deliver this lineup on time and at the expected level of quality and show everyone what we are capable of achieving."
So this is a classic tactic of bosses like this. Instead of being like, oh, like you guys, sorry, leadership management did not figure out a plan for this correctly. Instead, they're like, oh, well, you guys weren't working hard enough. Sorry, you just guys need to work even harder. Sorry. This is the stuff that creates crunch culture. It creates a toxic work environment, is the people on top saying like, well, clearly you guys are just bad at what you're doing and you need to stay longer hours. You need to do more work. When you know that these Ubisoft games, these huge open world Ubisoft games, don't happen like through magic. They happen because on the blood, sweat, and tears of the little labor, the labor that works on them. So yeah, it's embarrassing. I'm glad that he apologized. At least he did. But still, it doesn't take away from the fact that it just looks lousy at Ubisoft. So like, it's insult to injury in a way. It's like, not only are we delaying your games, not only are we basically saying like, we had to cancel a bunch of projects that I'm sure a lot of people worked hard on, but now they're like, oh yeah, and by the way, you still didn't work hard enough. It's bullshit. These two stories are connected, is what I'm saying, is that it's all about
management not taking responsibility.
And not taking the right responsibility for the realities of business. It's like, realities of business are not that the workers are not working hard enough. It's never that. Because as much as people like to say the lie that like, oh, well, if you treat a worker like with like a lot of benefits and you give them higher pay, they're just going to slack off and not work. That is the least true thing in my experience that I've ever heard. In my experience, Everyone I've seen in every job has like kicked ass at it, worked hard, done overtime in every, and I've been in a lot of industries. I've been in every industry, and I'm always surrounded by people who just work way harder than they need to, way above their pay range, just because they believe it's the right thing to do. That's how people naturally are. It's not like you're getting, if all of a sudden, if you give them donuts every Friday, they're going to like decide, oh, well, I guess I don't have to work as hard. No, that's not what it is. So whenever I see this coming from like leadership being like, oh, well, you guys aren't working hard enough, I find it really hard to believe because I've never seen anybody slack off like who is like, who believes in what they're doing. And just, I don't know. Video games especially, like they're an industry around like people who are passionate about games, right? You rarely hear about somebody working in video games that's like, oh, I don't really care. No, they're always about like, I'm really excited to make this game. Like, I'm really excited to contribute to this really cool project. I like playing games. I want this to be a good game. That's how probably all video game developers are. So to have this kind of statement, it's just slap in the face to me. It's like, I don't know. It's excuses. It's making excuses for stuff that's caused by other factors. And it's just sad.
I mean, I go back to management just because management is the one who sets these deadlines. They're the ones who get their resources from internally and kind of inflate them just to make their managers happy and make their managers happy.
Like we said with Phil Spencer, everybody has somebody to answer to. It's just that you have to really think about who you throw under the bus there. Because like you have to be honest and look at the people under you. And if they're doing a good job, they're doing a good job. And like, you shouldn't have to pressure them to go beyond their physical capabilities to get a project out the door. Because if that's the case, you need to rethink how that project is set up. And you're right. That's on management then to retool how the culture is created. And how to use resources better and use everybody in a smarter way. Anyways, it's just business. Business was businessy this week.
It was very businessy. So let's get out of businessy and let's go play on our phones.
Yes, and I am so excited to talk. I'll be brief because this game is something we've already covered here on the podcast.
I mean, it was our game of the year, 2017.
But I'm happy to report that the iPhone Apple Arcade version of Pocket Card Jockey, one of our favorite games ever, is as good as I hoped it would be.
Yeah.
So if you have Apple Arcade, as of yesterday, you can download Game Freak. Yes, that Game Freaks. Pocket Card Jockey, this time called Pocket Card Jockey Ride On. It is a remake of the 3DS game they put out back in 2017, I want to say.
Oh, right on.
2016, 2017. And it is redone in 3D. The races now take place in 3D. But otherwise, it's pretty much the same game with some minor adjustments. So if you like that DS game, the 3DS game, you will love this. It's basically the same thing. It's down to the solitaire gameplay, the breeding the horses, trying to get the best horses, trying to get the all first place in all the races, the funny dialogue. It's all back, and it's all better than before, in my opinion. It looks great. It runs really well on my phone. They made some minor changes. And it seems like the game is a little more lax on progression. In the first game, it felt like you had to get first place no matter what, or else the game would kind of punish you and be like, well, if you lose 3 times, you're out.
Yes.
It seems like in this game, there's a target that you just need to hit within a certain amount of places. For example, if you get better than 5th place, or if you get better than 7th place in this race. So it looks like it's a little more relaxed with progression, which is good if you're not always getting the best luck with your solitaire. The second thing they changed is in the past game on the 3DS, you had to rub the stylus on the power meter to get your energy.
Run.
In the new version in Ride On, it is an autofill. So it'll auto push everything out unless you turn that off in the settings. So it's just up to you whether you actually care that much about the rub, but you don't have to do it if you don't want to. In fact, I was usually rubbing all of it out. Sorry.
Do you rub faster than that?
So it didn't matter. So auto is basically what I would have done in the 3DS game anyway. So it's a wash for me. What I will say though is just like the 3DS game, I think it can be really intimidating for new players because it throws a lot at you at the beginning. It's kind of complicated with how this game works because there's almost 3 different games happening. There's the solitaire, There's the moving the horse to the comfort zone, and then at the end there's the horse racing end game. So it's like there's kind of a lot to absorb when you're first learning, but the tutorials are pretty good, and I think it walks you through enough where you kind of get it by the end of it. I skipped that though because I already know all that stuff.
Okay.
So
And
yeah,
it's only for Apple Arcade though.
it's only on
right?
Apple Arcade, which means you
Yes.
have to have a relatively modern iPhone or iPad to play this.
Darn it.
Or possibly Apple TV. I believe some arcade games are playable through that.
Okay.
So yeah, it might be an Apple TV game as well. But yeah, it's cool, and it's just as funny and weird of a universe as I remember that game being. I'm gonna have a lot of fun with it going forward. It's gonna be a real good go-to game.
All right.
Yep,
I didn't
yep.
play anything new.
Okay, well then I guess we can move on.
I actually did end up playing some more Switch Sports
Oh yeah, okay.
last night. Yeah,
Cool.
that's people over. Played Switch Sports.
Schwartz.
Yeah,
So Schwartz.
yes, it's always fun with other people.
Always.
All right,
All right,
So-
let's move on.
let's move on out of video games and into
Television. And we always start the television section with the sports corner, sports wall, I guess.
back there.
We start sports with LeBron James reaching another milestone in his career, 28,000 career points. This puts him below Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who sets the record with 38,387.
Wait, was that right?
That's what you have here.
No, I'm sorry.
You mean 38. So
Yes.
he's very close to Kareem's record, is what you're
Yes,
saying.
that's what I was
Got
saying.
it. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, well, you're only 10,000 points off.
I know. That's only like what 5 seasons of LeBron.
So congratulations to LeBron. He continues to making a one of the greats argument for himself.
He is number 2 on the all-time scoring list.
Yeah.
The next milestone is Kareem.
Yeah.
Only actually right now he's about 300 shy, which does put him within this season.
Yeah, I guess
doing
so. And so he could do it.
Yep.
Here.
In February, I think is what they
So does he-
calculated it out.
Does he do it at the end of the season and then retire?
Well, no, he does it in February. They're still season. Oh,
Well, that's
he
what I'm
doesn't retire
saying.
At the end of the
You
season?
think he does it by the end of the season and he's like, okay, cool, I'm good?
Well, he wanted to do one season with playing with his son.
Oh, right. I
Brony.
forgot about that.
You forgot about Brony?
I always forget about Bro.
Yeah.
Is that his name?
Yeah.
I didn't spell that.
Brony.
Really?
Yeah, like LeBron, Bronny.
Oh my god. Like My Little Pony fans.
Yeah, Bronny.
That's an unfortunate name. Anyway.
That's what everyone calls him, Bronny.
Bronny.
Because he's tiny. Tiny Bronny. Tiny LeBron.
Anyways.
He's a Bronny.
Bronny.
Anyways, that's always been his goal, is to be in the league long enough to play with his son.
Okay.
Because there's only been like a handful of father-son duos
Right.
in any sport.
Oh yeah. More so in baseball, weirdly enough.
Well, that's because he was on longevity of
Yeah,
baseball.
yeah, you can play for a while.
Yeah.
Well, that's fun. We'll see if that happens.
Yeah, so I'm sure if he will retire. But yeah, LeBron.
Regardless, it looks like he's going to retire with the scoring record.
Yes,
It seems like no
definitely
matter
will.
what happens.
Yeah.
Which is, hey, good
Yeah.
for
This
LeBron.
also puts him as the youngest person to reach 38,000 points,
Wow. Okay.
as well as every other 1,000 milestone before him.
There you go. All right, let's move on. Football. Those wild card games we talked about last week happened.
Yeah, they
And
did.
apparently they were super entertaining. Specifically,
you?
if you watch the Jaguars come back from 31-point deficit.
Yeah,
I heard that
they were down 30 points
Yeah,
and they
30.
won 31 to 30.
Regardless, yes, it seems like they pushed through a wild second half and really came back and shocked everyone.
Yes, definitely shocking. For those of you who do not know, that the Jaguars had both number 1 picks from the previous 2 years.
Yeah.
Turns out
Turns out that
draft
they paid
capital
off
does
finally.
matter.
So, looking at the playoff picture right now, do you still stand by your predictions, or do you have to change them now that the Jaguars have showed?
No, I have to change it because Tom Brady got eliminated.
Well, yeah, I mean, that seemed likely. This season was not great for the Buccaneers.
Well, yes, but I was just putting my hopes and dreams out
Yeah.
there on a wing and a prayer
but
and
no,
a 1 in $50 million shot.
yeah, not going to happen. So, with Brady out of the picture, now what are you thinking?
I am thinking Bills now for
Okay.
the AFC.
Sure.
And maybe probably Eagles. I just don't want the Cowboys to win.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. It seems like I have questions about the Bills because the Chiefs still exist.
Yes, it's okay. The Chiefs play the Jaguars in a slap fight.
Okay, well, get ready for the slap fight, I guess.
Well, then again, we also thought that the Chargers were going to slap the Jaguars, and hey, look who came
You were
roaring
wrong.
back.
You were wrong. So yeah, so LA eliminated, I guess we should say.
Yes.
No Los Angeles teams this year.
Yep.
So sad. But not as sad is that, hey, looks like Major League Baseball is finally going to look into the clusterfuck that is blackouts.
What? They never do anything like this.
Well, this is a maybe. Let's put this at a solid maybe. Because I was already considering buying MLB TV this year. Maybe this will change my mind, depending on how this goes. So, Major League Baseball has hired Billy Chambers, a longtime regional sports network executive, to figure out how to work around the local blackout issues.
So regarding the blackout issues,
if you're a sports fan, you know about this, but if you're not,
one, what's wrong with you? Two, if you're trying to watch a sports game in your local market, certain deals will have the games blacked out, so you either have to attend the game in person or use a VPN to say you're in another place.
Or what they really want you to do, subscribe to the Regional Sports Network, which is the only place to watch it.
Look at you, Bally's.
So for example, here in the Los Angeles market, if we want to watch Dodgers or Angels games, you have to subscribe to the service that has those regional games. Everywhere else, including Major League Baseball's software, MLB TV, will not show those games because they're wrapped up in that deal.
For those of you who don't do regional sports, it's like when you're trying to watch something streaming.
Yeah.
Or even something on like ESPN, and it says this game is blocked out because TNT has the rights to it or something.
Yeah,
CBS has the rights.
That's the other reason why this happens is because specifically with like a lot of playoff games or cable games like TNT or like things on like ESPN, they will be blocked from those regional networks, and it'll be the opposite where it's like, oh, we can't show this game because Fox is showing it tonight, something like that. Mm-hmm. So it's a complicated thing. Hopefully they figure out a way around it. I understand that a lot of people are just very quick to point out, oh, VPNs are so easy. You can do it so easily. It's not always an option for some people, especially, for example, I don't know, if your computer is also your work computer and you have a job that requires you to have the same consistent IP address or else you get fined, which means you can't use a VPN. So if you're in that situation, which I realize is probably not as common, but if you're in that situation, like I am, VPNs are not the solution, and you can't just easily do it. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It's a complicated thing. Hopefully this conversation with one of these executives maybe will lead to some solutions going forward. I would love a version of MLB TV that I could pay for where I would also get my local team. That would be very convenient and worth every penny.
Well, it's just like the NFL Sunday ticket where you get every game no matter what.
I would love that. If they had an equivalent to that for baseball, that's all I would want because I have a little bit of a plan this season is like I'm going to try to absorb some other teams, what's happening at the league. I was actually considering this week, I should ask people what the best baseball podcast is because I think I would love like listening to a baseball podcast.
Do you listen or do you watch Urinating Tree on YouTube?
Urinating Tree?
Yes.
No, I'm just hearing about a urinating tree for the first time today.
Oh, yes.
What the hell is Urinating Tree?
They do all these great baseball write-ups.
Oh,
and sports write-ups.
They're a sports thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've not heard of them until just now.
Oh, okay.
All right, well, good to know.
Yeah.
I don't watch a lot on YouTube, though. That's my problem.
Yeah, well, these ones are short. They do videos on
why are they
basically wrap-up videos.
Why are they called that?
I think it's a joke.
A joke about what?
See, like, congrats Blue Jays. Congrats Mets for ending season.
That's funny.
Yeah. A hater's guide to the postseason.
Okay, well, seems nice. But yeah, I'm thinking about like maybe getting into a podcast, kind of absorbing more stuff around the league. So that way I can appreciate what happens eventually more in the playoffs in case the Angels, as they probably won't.
mean, we were so into the Angels last year until they hit that 14-game losing streak that we're like, okay.
Apparently we have some really good prospects. Some people, some of our younger players are like being looked at.
Say that every year.
Yeah, but I feel
Since Mike Trout, they've been saying that.
But I was paying attention last season too, and I feel like this season's a different energy. Where it's less of it. Last season, the excitement was all our guys are healthy again. we're gonna do really well, and that was true for the first 3 months.
Yeah.
This season, the energy is different. This season's less about the veterans, and it's more about, oh, but we have prospects that are really interesting that we didn't have before. So to me, I think the energy going into the season is different. But again, this is not the time we should get
Yes.
into local ball. But yeah, so this is basically the lesson here is blackouts, I think, are bad for the game because
Yes.
I think they keep local people from being as engaged as they would be elsewhere, like otherwise.
I mean, that's always been baseball's
Yeah.
like, heel.
Because I'll be right. I'll be honest. I live in Long Beach now. It's going to be harder and for me to go to games.
Until they move to Long Beach.
asterisk, maybe. And so it's not going to be like last season where I went to like 7 games. It's probably going to be like 1 or 2.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be a lot harder for me to be as engaged. So it'd be awesome if I could watch all those games from home in a really easy way. Looking at you, Major League Baseball, figure it out. Anyways, anything else in sports before we move out?
Yes, the Australia Open is occurring right now.
All right.
Tennis is happening. That will wrap up next week. But on that note, can you believe it's been a year since we talked about Djokovic's passport vaccine thing?
I believe it. I believe it's been a year.
But yeah, Australia Open currently happening, going on.
All right. Good to know. All right, let's move on out of sports and into television news. Our first story was breaking yesterday. Netflix co-founder, and I guess he was CEO? Co-CEO?
He was co-CEO.
Reed
for
Hastings.
The past year.
The Reed Hastings.
Yes, that Reed Hastings that we always talk about.
Who led, of course, Hollywood Charge into streaming first over the past decade, is finally exiting his role as co-CEO, but he will stay on as executive chairman, the company said on Thursday.
So basically the Amazon deal.
Yeah. As part of the succession, COO Greg Peters will become co-CEO alongside Ted Sarandos, who has held that title since July 2020. In a statement, Hastings said the plan has been in the works for some time, since the elevation of Sarandos and Peters 2.5 years ago. The company disclosed in a securities filing that Hastings' shift to executive chairman and Peters' promotion to co-CEO were effective as of January 13th, with Peters also set to join the board. In addition, with the changes, Hastings will take a significant pay cut from $34.6 million to an estimated $3 million, while Peters will earn an estimated $33.6 million. So yeah, a lot of money comes with that CEO tag. Again, kind of reminds you of what we talked about in the video game section, doesn't it? It makes you think, right? Mm-hmm. So the fact that he's taking such a cut...
well, he's taking the cut because he's getting extra on the stocks.
And hopefully it also means that he's doing less work, because I'm sure he was probably like, I'm done taking the brunt of complaints from everybody else. Again, the money people,
yes,
with how I'm running this company. So like a little less stressful for him. But still, let's be real. $3 million salary is still a lot of money.
Yes. But just like we saw with Disney, new CEO in town.
Yeah. I don't know if this will change much of how Netflix is already going. The dream scenario here is that maybe with Reed down making less decisions, this will lead to less weird shit happening at Netflix that we've seen over the last couple of years, including premature cancellations and deals not going through, and stuff about the password crackdowns and everything. Or maybe it'll be business as usual. I'm not sure.
I mean, only time will tell. Maybe they'll get rid of the ad tier.
I doubt it. I think they're going to keep that there as an option.
It's only like 2% of their income, though.
Yeah, I know. It's dumb. But I think that, they're just like, it's a thing nobody wants to just check off a box for the board, is basically what those things are.
All right. Well, speaking of thing nobody wants.
So we move on to a person's name that I haven't read in a long time. Jeremy Clarkson.
Of Top Gear fame.
Yeah, you remember Top Gear?
Like people really like Top Gear?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Well, a virtual press conference for Jeremy Clarkson's Amazon Prime Video series, Clarkson's Farm, that was going to take place on Tuesday morning, has been called off. In Clarkson's December 16th column titled "One Day, Harold the Glove Puppet Will Tell the Truth About a Woman Talking B***KS." What? The former Top Gear presenter wrote of Meghan Markle. What the hell is the story? Quote, "I hate her. Not like I hate Scottish National Party leader Nicola Sturgeon or British serial killer Rose West. I hate her on a cellular level. Quote, end quote. He also just suggested that Markle be made to, quote, parade naked, unquote, through Britain while people, quote, throw lumps of excrement at her, end quote, in reference to the Game of Thrones scene. Now, Amazon won't be working with Clarkson after these statements beyond seasons of the Grand Tour and Clarkson's Farm that have already been commissioned. This means that the notorious Top Gear presenter likely won't be appearing in any new shows on Prime Video beyond 2024. He later wrote in his apology that, quote, usually I read what I've written to someone else before filing, but I was home alone on that fateful day and in a hurry. So when I finished, I just pressed send, and then when the column appeared the next day, the landmine exploded. We should note that this is not close to the first time that Jeremy Clarkson has said controversial things.
No, this is part of his weekly column that he submits to The Sun,
Yeah.
the very controversial newspaper
right.
in the UK.
Honestly, I don't know. I'm guessing it was a slow week.
It's pretty slow week, yeah.
Because, this guy doesn't need us talking about him. Nobody should be talking about this guy anymore.
And after the end of this year or next year,
no one will be talking
about him.
I don't know what it is in the water over in the UK, but man, what's up with British people in the last few years? What's going on over there?
Just people are just showing their true colors.
It's not great. It's not great.
If you give someone a weekly column, enough time will pass where he doesn't have anything to write about, so just spew whatever bullshit comes to his head.
Like, say what you will about the royal family, like, whatever. I'm not somebody who's like, oh, you shouldn't, look back to our conversation about the Queen for a month ago to see how we feel. But like, whatever. But it's still like, come on, man. That's some weird shit you just said about Meghan Markle. It's like, what the hell are you talking about?
I mean, the fact that he didn't, one, edit himself, two, send it to someone else to edit, and three, had enough time to write it up, send it to the editor at the Sun,
and not reconsider what he said.
Reconsider. Like, there's certain steps at that point where you're like, maybe I'm too drunk to send this.
Yeah, I don't know. This guy is a piece of work, and I'm excited to hear less about him very soon.
We will all be hearing less about him very soon.
But what we'll be hearing a lot more of is HBO's The Last of Us.
Okay, so I watched this pilot. We talked about it last week, how it was coming up. You watched the pilot.
So before we go into the show, we should talk about our history with the video game. So 2013's The Last of Us. We both played it, right?
Yes.
Did we both play it when it came out in 2013? Because I played it around the time it launched. I was a day one person for The Last of Us.
I was not a day one person for The Last of Us.
Okay.
I think I was a PlayStation Plus version of it.
Okay. So you waited until the PS4 release, probably?
Yeah, so about 2 years after, but still fresh. Before, but I was a Last of Us Part 2 day one.
So let's leave 2 over here because that's a whole nother can of worms.
Yes.
What we're talking about is The Last of Us Part 1, as it's known.
Yes.
Because the HBO series, which is from the Chernobyl creators,
which was my show of the year 2020.
This is an adaptation of specifically that first game, and from what I understand, elements of the DLC, Left Behind. I believe is what it's called.
Yeah.
As well. So it's those 2 stories, I guess, are being retold here in prestige HBO form. So back in the day, how did you feel about The Last of Us, a story? Like beyond gameplay and stuff, because right now, basically, we're just talking about story. Did you think that was really like it told a good story and in cutscenes and stuff?
Because I came in late, I seen that it already won all the awards and accolades. I'm like, okay, how good can this game actually be?
Yeah.
And because this came out in 2010, so at the time I was like, people just like, sure, it could be a good game. It's zombies. I don't like zombie games, so I'm not interested in playing it. Mm-hmm. When eventually either like discounts discounts or comes out free PlayStation Plus, then like I'll play it then. It was a no rush to play it. Mm-hmm. And then when I played it, I was like, this is great storytelling.
Yeah.
Naughty Dog. I mean, as much as I like Naughty Dog from like Crash Bandicoot days, this was their first time doing something completely different. This was
This was fresh off of Uncharted.
Yes.
Specifically on the critically acclaimed Uncharted 2.
Yes.
And so people were really high critically on and I was definitely one of those people. I love the Uncharted games. That trilogy really blew me away on PS3. And so, yeah, I was very excited for The Last of Us.
Right. And so because it was coming off of Uncharted 2, which got all the 10s of 10s, in my mind, it was you can't do this back to back. It can't be that good. Now you're just praising the studio, and not necessarily the game
Especially
itself.
after 3, because 3 had come out before that as well, and 3 was a little bit of not necessarily a letdown. There was because it was 20.
Because I thought it was 2009.
I want to
was
say
2.
Yeah, and then 2011-ish, maybe 10 or 11, I think was Uncharted 3.
Yeah, but Last of Us was 2010, right?
No, Last of Us was 2013.
Oh, okay.
The thing about Last of Us, it was on the cusp of PS3.
That's what
it was a really late PS3 game.
Yeah.
The PS4 was going to come out within like 4 or 5 months after The Last of Us's release, which is why they did that remastered so quickly.
That's right.
They got it out of the door pretty
years,
much immediately because they had already been working on PS4. It was a way for Naughty Dog to step into PS4 development. Anyways, that's neither here nor there.
That's video game talk.
That's video game talk. But basically, that's set up for The Last of Us, the television show, because, well, let's be real. They are just straight up adapting that video game story. And if you've played the original Last of Us, you know that the first 30 minutes of that game tell a very specific, heart-wrenching story. Well, the television show does it all again. You get to relive that wonderful moment.
Wonderful is a
exactly,
strange
yes. Way to put it.
But it did make me cry. Even if I knew what was happening, it still brought tears to my eyes.
Didn't get me, maybe because I played that moment 3 times at least in video game form now, and so it didn't hit me as hard as it did the first couple times.
All right, so yeah, I
was expecting the way they're going to do it.
Twice, like I think probably twice years ago.
So yeah, the first thing I want to talk about here is how close they are hewing to this video game. There are some differences. You get to see a lot more of, let's say, I'm trying to be spoiler free here. You get to see a lot more of the day-to-day life of the main character than you did in the video game, especially in that what sets up that first moment.
I mean, they actually give him a job too.
Right. You also get to see a different perspective for one of the characters before their untimely fate, which was different from the game. That surprised me. I was like, okay. That being said, though, the thing that blew me away the most was the stuff that was just the footage from the game. The stuff with the driving, shot for shot. They somehow remade in live action the cinematic from the video game.
So for that specific shot,
I
want to say there's a cut out there that is just the long take of that shot.
It's amazing. And it looks fantastic. The whole time I was looking over to Christy and I was like, wow, this looks like the most expensive thing I've seen in years, because they had to make so much work. Burning buildings, crowd shots, like they drive by so much shit, which makes sense in a video game, right? Because you imagine it like as a set, like there's not a whole lot going on beyond those set pieces. You're driving past it so quickly. But in a television show, you have to pay all those people. There's probably a special effects budget that's huge to make that stuff work, to make that look like a realistic building on fire, for example.
And that's just the first 30 minutes of this thing.
Yeah, my mind was reeling on like how they made this work, how they did this on a television budget. I mean, yes, it's HBO, they can afford it. But like, I was just like, wow, this is super impressive.
Yeah, especially considering that it is a video game adaptation, as we've seen in really recent memory, especially with Naughty Dog property. Look at Uncharted.
Yeah.
That came out last year.
Yeah.
How very how story elements can be very liberal in their retellings, especially in cinematic format. That the fact that they're doing this in a TV series with HBO money behind it, that they're painstakingly taking their time and putting everything from the game into the screen.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So this is probably when we should bring up, like, yes, I know most of the press about this has been, wow, our video game adaptation's good. And I just want to say right here, they've been good for a hot minute at this point. I feel like that conversation is over. We don't need to say every time something comes out, whether it be The Witcher or Arcane. Like by this point, we're like, yes, we get it. You can make video games adaptations good now. Let's put that conversation aside. That being said, I think it is important to note that, that they are basically taking what was already a pretty good story and adapting it into a television show. And to me, I'm like, yeah, this is exactly what I expected them to do. If they're working on already such a solid foundation, like, of course it's good. And so I'm not surprised that this is as good as it is. I'm just surprised with how, like, the budget and how much work they've clearly put into this production, making it look as good as it is. That's where I'm surprised. It's like, wow, it looks like a proper HBO production,
Yep.
which is impressive.
And the one change that I do like that they did was that they made it from the video game, which was spores related airborne event, to more of a fungal event.
Which, I mean, you already had in the game's fiction that bites do count. Obviously, the plot kind of surrounds a character who has been bitten.
Yes.
And so it makes sense for them to do that. Speaking of characters, we should talk about the performances here. How do you like everyone's performance so far?
Pedro Pascal.
Yeah, killing it. I think he's great in this.
Yes.
He's perfect. I was worried about the casting because I feel like people who played the game are so used to that specific performance by what's his name? Video game voice actor extraordinaire.
Not Nolan, right?
No, not Nolan.
The other one.
The other one, yes. Anyway, I was so used to that delivery, but honestly, yeah, I think Pedro Pascal does such a good job here.
Troy Baker,
thank you. But yeah, I think he does a great job channeling that Joel energy, which is, yeah, he's an all right guy, but when pushed, he's an absolute scumbag.
Yes.
Where he's like, no, I'm not going to help those people. No, absolutely not. And so, yeah, already I'm feeling like he's got this character down pat. I'm a little less solid about Bella Ramsey's portrayal of Ellie here. I think I miss a little bit of the digital Ellie in her performance, but I feel like once it goes on, I think it'll probably get more used to her approach, because she definitely hits the beats that she's supposed to. It's really funny going from Christy and I really like the animated adaptation of Hilda on Netflix, which she's also the voice actor for the lead, who is this little British girl. So it's wild going from that to her doing an American accent and saying "fuck" all the time. It's such a dynamic, funny dynamic there. And so Christy literally didn't know it was the same girl until we saw the credits. She was like, "Wait a minute, that's Bella Ramsey?" And I was like, "Yeah, I know. Yeah. She's doing an American accent here." Wild. She's got range, I guess is what I'm saying. But yeah, I'm pretty impressed with the level of performance here, and I'm excited to see how they do the rest of this game's story. I think that this first episode ends on a pretty good note, with making you wonder, okay, what's going to happen? How are they going to get in trouble? Are they going to find Tommy, et cetera, et cetera?
See, with the end of this first episode, it does make me a bit hesitant about where they're going to go next, because this is essentially a journey, a hero's journey.
Yeah.
Both like within each other, but then also like physically across America.
Correct. Yeah.
So you can't have consistent spaces.
Yeah.
You can't have consistent landmarks.
I have been thinking a lot about this, how they're going to move past the video gamey parts of the story, which is a lot of, what does this mean? What does this mean? I thought the most interesting scene for me in pertaining to that idea was the scene where Ellie comes across a code that she figures out. That's so video gamey, because my mind immediately went to, oh, that did happen a lot in the video game, right? Where you found a piece of paper and you're like, what does this mean?
Yes.
They did it in a way, they spun it in a way where it makes sense as a plot point and a character moment in a way where you're like, okay, Ellie's really good at solving puzzles. Boom.
Yes.
Like, it was a cool way of interpreting that. But to me, I was like, man, if you didn't play the game, this would work. But if you did play the game, you're like, okay. This is how they're going to make some of these gamey elements into a television show. And yeah, you're right. As the show goes on and you get into those zones where it's like, oh, they were traveling for a while here before they made it to next landmark.
Yes.
What happens in that middle episode? Like, or are we just going to be, we're here at the beginning of the episode because we know what happens next? Will they just be like, oh, we made it?
Right.
Like, that's a question. That's a good question. I don't know how they're going to do that.
But we shall see as the season continues.
Yeah, I'm on board. This is not something I usually watch, but because I have investment in the story of that video game, I do want to watch the rest of it and see how they do it. So we'll find out when episode 2 hits tomorrow.
Yep. I mean, so far they've announced a season 1.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if there's going to be a season 2. Depends on where they actually wrap up this story.
The only thing that I heard somebody say this week, which was basically like, there's no way they do a second season that's about part 2 because you can't age everybody up.
Right.
So they have to somehow figure out how to really draw this story out, Game of Thrones style, beyond the existing lore. But you have series creator and co-writer Neil Druckmann there to guide that, as long as he sticks around. And so the question, like, maybe with him there, maybe he'll find out if there are other stories to tell about those characters.
Yeah, it's going to be different if they do go beyond a season.
Yeah.
That basically just from the previews, it looks like that season 1 will contain the full story of The Last of Us.
The game, yeah.
So, yeah, what do you do for season 2 past that? Should you even get that? Do you even want that?
But that's not our problem. That's HBO's. So you guys figure it out. All right. But yeah, so far so good. I really like what we saw in the first episode. I'm excited to see what they do going forward.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool.
But I'll watch something else.
Yeah, I'm actually curious about this. Christy and I were looking through Peacock last night, and we did stumble upon this show. We were considering watching it, but I watched the trailer, and I was like, I don't know about this. Tell me about The Traitors.
So, just like you, I was also stumbling around Peacock trying to find something to watch. We did end up watching something else, which I will talk about later.
Okay.
But while we were searching, I came across this.
Uh-huh.
I was like, ooh, it's a game show, it's a mystery, and it stars Alan Cummings.
Right, yeah.
I like all those things.
Sure.
So I started to check out The Traitors.
Yes.
And yes, I have to say it like that.
Did you say it like Alan
The Traitors, because that's how Alan Cummings says it. It's very take place in a Scottish castle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a murder mystery
mm-hmm.
where there are 3 traitors among the group of 20,
mm-hmm.
and it's becomes werewolf by night. Not werewolf by night. Just becomes werewolf.
Sure.
Mafia, werewolf, whichever game you want to point it to. Who is the traitor among you?
Right. Among us.
More or less, yes. Who's the traitor among us?
Yeah.
Except when they all arrive, no one is clearly designated who the traitor is. Everyone shows up as themselves.
Right.
And then Alan Cummings picks who the traitors are going to be in the most elaborate way possible. Everybody put a blindfold on. I'm going to tap you on the shoulder. That is no joke. That is exactly what happens.
Heads up, 7-Up ass.
Just low budget.
Yeah.
You're a traitor. You're a traitor. And you're a traitor. And so there's technically 2 different bootings every episode.
Sure. Eliminations.
They're bootings. Because one is that they all sit in a circle after they play their games. One is you sit in a circle and you as a group must decide one person to boot out. Basically, who was the traitor amongst you.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second elimination is that the traitors kill someone every night. So 2 eliminations every week or every episode. It's not weekly because they're all there on Peacock. So it's just like that. I mean, here's the unfortunate thing that just basically spoils the whole thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if it spoils it or just makes it different from like The Mole, which came out on Netflix.
Yeah.
In that you know who the traitors are.
Oh, right, because you saw the selection process.
Yes.
So there's no mystery for the viewer to solve.
No.
Right.
You're just watching everyone else solve the mystery.
Kind of circle style, where you're just like, oh, well, we know who did this and this, even though it's a mystery to the players.
Yeah.
We're going to see, the fun is, will they figure out and how?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where it tries to be different.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's different enough, though, because there's always 3 of them.
Yeah.
So you know that immediately someone's going to be eliminated.
Mm-hmm.
And 2, if there's at least 1 traitor left by the end, then that traitor or traitors will split the pot.
Okay, got it. So how are the actual games? Are they entertaining? Because the trailer made it look very Fear Factor-esque.
So there's only one of it that is
that's
Fear
like that?
Factor.
Okay.
Actually, I guess technically 2 because they have one of them where they're buried alive.
Yeah, that's the what made me think that.
Well, there's also another one which is very Fear Factor-esque, which
Okay.
involves bugs and stuff.
Ooh.
But no, most of it is thinking, kind of strategy,
Okay.
games, a little bit of physical challenges as well. Nothing too demanding.
Yeah.
I think one of the interesting things that they do is that it's a cast of 20, but it's 10 celebrities and 10 regular people.
Okay.
Although I will use the term celebrity
used loosely here.
because I have someone from Below Deck on it, which I don't watch.
Yeah.
But they did have U.S. gold medal winning Ryan Lochte.
Sure.
So,
okay.
Like I said, your level of celebrity will vary between those two. But yeah, no one like clearly standout-ish.
Yeah.
Unless you watch Big Brother, then there's someone from Big Brother on there.
Oh well, yeah. That seems to be the case on all these reality shows.
Well, when Big Brother has 25 seasons,
right,
you're gonna have a lot of
brothers.
contestants to choose from.
All right. Well, then this is a good segue. Well, then how does your experience with the Traitors compare with the recently wrapped up The Circle?
Oh yeah, I forgot to put that on here.
Yeah, we don't have to go into depth. We can just kind of give our vague thoughts about this season. I really enjoyed this season. I think that it wrapped up in a really good note. The person who should have won.
Yes.
And won for the right reasons too. I felt like I was like, oh, okay, this could have gone way worse than it actually did, and pleasantly surprised. I thought it was a very entertaining season overall, and I think, I think it had higher highs than last season, despite the absence of any big celebrities this season. They didn't pull the celebrity card this season.
Yeah, they did.
I mean, they pulled a circle celebrity, I guess you could say, but not really like they didn't seem like they weren't interested in the celebrity cameo shit that they've done the last couple of times.
Yeah.
I had a good time. How'd you feel about the how the season wrapped up?
There weren't as many twists and turns as in previous seasons.
I disagree. I felt like there was a lot of drama, especially after in the second half of the season. It was just like shit was popping off every episode.
Yes, but you see, like with the previous seasons, I always reference that the producers are just making it up as they go.
Yeah.
This season didn't feel as much like that. It felt more like we have a formula now, so we're going to use what we know works.
I did think that there was planting some seeds, though, from the producers that did end up blossoming. I do think that you can go into spoilers now that it's over.
Yeah.
So if you haven't watched this season of The Circle, and you don't want spoilers, please fast forward.
This is your spoiler warning.
Warning. But yeah, I felt like the whole the Marvin shit was a setup.
Yes.
Because that I thought that he won the clay sculpture game, right?
Yeah.
And the reward was going to be a date with another player. They didn't let him choose. They chose for him. To me, that was like, oh, obviously they're trying to get him in trouble.
Well, wasn't it a date with a new player?
Exactly. But they knew that either way, one of the new players was a woman that Marvin was going to flirt with.
Yes.
It was a setup, and he fell for it. And it set up all the drama that led to him getting eliminated. The other thing that felt like bait to me was the whole oh, well, we're going to bring Shuby back, and we're going to make him do a character that he's not going to play well, and he's going to try to and so the whole fake ass revolution thing he did that literally didn't matter got into the minds of the other players where they thought it did matter, and then sets up the finale. Essentially, everything that happens after his elimination changed the entire dynamic of how everybody got along.
Yeah, but see, they did the same thing in the beginning of the season where they immediately eliminate two people. But they don't eliminate two people.
So what I'm saying is I disagree with what you said, which is no, the producers really changed how the dynamic of I felt their hands in this season probably more so than last season, in my opinion, where it's oh no, clearly the decisions that they made, the setups that they made actually did pay off and created a lot more drama than needed to happen. That would have happened elsewhere, otherwise.
No, I think the drama still would have happened even without that.
Not to this degree. I don't know. Regardless, it made for entertaining television.
Yeah, but there was no. I mean, unless you count Jennifer as the straight up villain of the season.
Yeah, she was the villain that nobody knew was the villain
Yes.
until towards the end, where you had a couple players figure it out. But you're more or less right. There was nobody that was easy to hate.
Mm-hmm.
The only player that I would say that did badly was eliminated in like the 4th episode. The guy who was playing his daughter.
Yeah.
Like the only person who was bad at the game was eliminated.
Yes.
So yeah, you're right. Everybody was pretty strong, which is why I think you did have to have some manipulation happening. Because otherwise, I think everybody would have just gotten along pretty well.
Yeah.
You don't want that.
Well, no, but that's how you win the game. You have to
Right.
get along with everyone.
Yeah. Anyways, I thought it was a good time. I really liked the reveals in the last couple episodes. It was fun. It was a lot of fun to watch everybody figure out stuff
Yes.
that you knew about. And I was like, okay, all right. It worked for me. Circle remains a ridiculously entertaining reality show just because of the bullshit it puts you through.
Yes. Welcome to the love of the circle. The love-hate of the circle.
It's ridiculous. That show is ridiculous, but it's fun.
Yes.
Anyway,
All right.
any other television we should talk about?
Nothing else. Celebrity Jeopardy continuing.
Yeah. It'll be an interesting next round of that for sure.
Yeah. Next round are the semifinals.
Yeah.
Which is 3 games in semifinals, and then you have the finale. So that'll take us into February.
Yeah, which will be a really fun game between Patton Oswalt, Michael Cera, and Brendan Hunter, which I'm waiting for. That'll be really fun. They're both ridiculous all 3 ridiculous personalities.
Yes.
So excited to see how that pans out.
Other than that, no, just watching a lot of football this weekend. It's
football.
Divisional. Next weekend is the conference, and then we'll have whoever will be in the Super Bowl after that.
All right, so we'll see. Let's move on out of television then and to cancellations and renewals.
What am I no longer watching?
I don't know because I'm really confused with what's happening on the screen.
Oh, because I forgot to write it down.
You forgot to write them down.
So we're going to start with Chucky here.
All right, so Chucky on Sci-Fi has been renewed for a 3rd season alongside another sci-fi show, Reginald the Vampire, renewed for a 2nd season.
Yeah.
Okay, Sci-Fi.
Okay. Good job, Chucky, for 3 seasons.
Yeah. And then going up from here.
Yep.
Hulu has renewed Shoresy for a 2nd season. I don't know what that is.
I want to say it's a Jersey Shore ripoff, but I cannot be certain.
I don't know. Selling the OC, one of the many selling shows on Netflix,
Yes.
has been renewed for 2 additional seasons.
So that'll go to its third season.
SEAL Team on Paramount Plus has been renewed for 7th season.
Well, no, see that they're counting when it was on CBS.
I imagine, yeah,
Yes.
that's why. BMF on Stars has been renewed for a 3rd season. HBO Max's reboot of Gossip Girl will end after 2 seasons. It has been canceled. The current 2nd season, which is running right now, will be its last.
Yep, they've gossiped them out.
They gossiped them out. Outlander on Stars has been renewed for an 8th and final season ahead of its 7th season, which will premiere this summer.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, though, there will be a spin-off prequel series called Outlander Blood of My Blood that will premiere later. So there you go. More Outlander.
More
Outlander. If you're
well, it's prequel Outlander now.
Yes. Next up, Cobra Kai, now on Netflix, has been renewed for a 6th and final season. So that story will wrap up.
Yep. But the biggest cancellation of the week.
NCIS Los Angeles, specifically the Los Angeles version of NCIS, canceled after 14 seasons. Its series finale will air this May on May 14th.
Has not been picked up.
No.
Officially
That's
done.
it. One of the many NCISs is gone. I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, they still have New Orleans out there, I think, and Las Vegas.
Scott Bakula still has a job, so there you go.
I don't know. That was one of my favorite bar trivia questions.
Yeah.
Which one of these NCIS places doesn't exist?
Right. It's hard. I wouldn't be able to answer that.
Yeah.
So there you go. Those are your cancellations and renewals.
I guess we can go to deaths.
Yeah, let's move on to deaths. We had at least one real rough one this week. Let's just scroll.
Since here.
So let's go. See.
Sorry, 14th.
14th.
Yeah,
let's see if anybody's if we recognize anybody right away here on this list.
We had Brian Tufano, the cinematographer, age 83, for Trainspotting.
Yep.
Billy Elliot, as well as Shallow Grave.
All right, so that's one for that day. Let's move on to the 15th. I don't recognize any names here. The 16th.
No, you want to get to
Oh, we had
Crosby.
Frank Thomas, baseball player, age 93.
Yeah, Frank Thomas.
Yeah, way down there at the bottom there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Important in the annals of baseball history.
Yep. Played for the Pirates, the Mets, and the Cubs.
Who else do we have? Well, let's move on. This is great audio.
Yeah, yeah, that's why I typically write it down.
Yeah.
Maybe we should come back to
make
this.
sure we
Jay Briscoe for WWE.
right.
That was a traffic
yes.
collision, age 38.
Yes,
that was
I
also
did hear
earlier.
about that one. Then the biggest one this week, David Crosby.
Yes.
1/3 of course, or 1/4 of course, of Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, a rock and roll legend. Lasted a long time. Was also a very entertaining Twitter presence. He was actually very active on Twitter and would respond to people if they tweeted at him. Did a lot of interviews and, of course, is a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame member. You saw a lot of people, including Neil Young, shout out him this week about his legacy. Definitely will be missed. Definitely a icon of rock for a very long time, for multiple decades. Age 81.
Yeah, he was the big one this week.
All right, we can probably move on then.
Yep.
We can kind of clean up next week if we missed anybody.
Right into the movie section.
Yes, let's wrap the show up by hitting the last section here, which is movies.
Wait, I think I might have not done this one too.
All right, wow, slacking.
Yes.
You've been slacking off.
It's okay. I don't think anything changed, though.
No, I don't think so, because your big premiere just hit the bottom of our top 5. So your number one movie is still Avatar: The Way of Water. That's at $32 million this week. And total gross, is that domestic?
Yes.
Okay, is $564 million.
Domestic, yep.
Domestic. Megan in Threegan was with another $18 million this week. That puts it at 56. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is your number 3 with $14 million this week. That's at 107, so that crossed the 100 mark.
That one is actually up from last week.
Wow. Okay. Congratulations to Puss in Boots. Number 4, A Man Called Otto, another $12 million. That's at 19 this week. And then, like I said, entering your top 5, premiering into your top 5 with $10 million is Plane.
Plane.
The plane has landed, and it's landed at $10 million.
Gerard Butler's Plane.
So there you go. In case you're wondering about your other debut this week, House Party, that's at number 6, just edged out of the top 5 at $3 million.
Well, I would say it's just edged out. There's a gap between $3 million and $10 million.
$7 million gap there, but yeah, man. Your limited release Skinamarink is way down there too.
Yes.
I can't wait to say more Skinamarink. Anyway, let's move on to upcoming releases. This week, you have one movie which we mentioned last week, which is we talked about missing last week.
Yes, that's currently out in theaters right now.
So this week is 2 movies. We have Distant and Fear. I don't know what either of these are.
Neither do I. They just have the wide releases.
All right. Well, that's fine. We don't need to talk about Distant or Fear.
Yep.
I'm assuming with a name like Fear, it's a horror movie. Yep, correct. And then the name Distant is a comedy sci-fi drama.
With Anthony Ramos.
Okay.
And
Zachary
Naomi
Quinto.
Scott.
Okay, sure. I don't know what that is, but it's out this week.
Apparently, also is Infinity Pool, starring it's a horror mystery with Alexander Skarsgård.
Yes, that is also this week. All right, let's move on.
Yeah.
Because I have no idea. I guess there's an asteroid miner.
Yep.
So it's there Armageddon too.
Yes.
All right, let's move on to our stories in the movies world this week. We start with Regal Cinemas, who has fallen on some hard times. The second largest chain of movie theaters in the U.S. will now close 39 locations after its parent company, Cineworld, filed for bankruptcy back in September. We actually covered that story.
Yep.
Cineworld will reject the leases beginning February 15th. Amid a massive decline in the domestic box office during the COVID-19 pandemic, the monthly rent per theater increased by nearly 30% from 2019 to 2022. That's according to their latest bankruptcy filing. Quote, in total, the debtors estimate that rejecting the leases will save their estates approximately $22 million annually. That's according to their document. Any personal property of little value remaining at the locations will be abandoned. So if your local Regal shuts down, this is why. So AMC will now probably just steamroll Regal
are-
going forward.
Or Alamo Draft House.
Yeah.
There are 33 theaters in total across the U.S. 2 of them are local to us.
Wow, they're getting shut down.
One is in the Yorba Linda, which opened up 2 years ago.
Wow, damn. Where's the
Sorry,
other
3
one?
years ago at the start of 2020, and then 2020 happened. So they're going to easily default on that
Where's
lease.
the other one?
By South Coast Plaza.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
That's a surprise.
Also, note the date. February 15th is when all the
Yeah.
leases will be rejected and terminated.
Got it.
That is the weekend before Ant-Man and the Wasp:
Oof.
Quantumania comes out.
Oh, that's rough. So go see that at an AMC theater, I guess.
So if you happen to have pre-purchased any tickets for that, please check with
Get a
Regal to
refund.
get a refund.
See if you can get a refund for that one.
Yes.
Or go 2 cities away to go see another one.
I almost had that happen
Oof.
to me.
Yikes.
But this is also why I strongly urge not to pre-purchase tickets.
Right. Just don't do that.
Yes.
Just don't do that. All right. Let's move on to our second story here, which is
Um,
about comedy staple Charlie Day.
well, it's also crossed because Sundance is currently happening, the film
That is
festival.
true. So, roadside attractions, Grindstone Entertainment, and Lionsgate have picked up North American distribution for Charlie Day's featured directorial debut, Fool's Paradise.
That's right. That Charlie Day
Yes.
wrote and directed a film.
Wow. Fool's Paradise is a satirical comedy following a down-on-his-luck publicist, played by Ken Jeong, who gets his lucky break when he discovers a man recently released from a mental health facility, played by Charlie Day, looks just like a method actor who refuses to leave his trailer. With the help of a powerful producer, the late Ray Liotta, Ken helps the man become a huge star, even marrying his beautiful leading lady, Kate Beckinsale. Their adventures lead them to cross paths with a myriad of celebrity co-stars Adrian Brody, Common, Jason Sudeikis, Edie Falco, and John Malkovich. Wow, what a cast! Yeah, I don't know. It seems weird, but sure.
I mean, weird concept considering mental health, but
Yeah.
also probably got picked up because of
Charlie
all
Day.
this. Well, one Charlie
Well,
Day, but also all the stars in this.
Yeah, I imagine this was an easy pick for distribution here from Lionsgate. So yeah, sure, why not?
Yep.
Charlie Day is just continuing to his multi-hyphenate career. Why not?
Yep. Roadside Attractions and Grindstone Entertainment will be helping with the theatrical release, whereas Lionsgate will get the
Yes.
streaming release.
All right. We'll see. All right.
Yep. So I think last time we talked about Sundance, it was for Palm Springs that we were hyped up.
Yeah.
So
So that worked out for Palm Springs.
Yeah.
So
probably Fool's Paradise on Hulu later this year.
maybe so. All right, let's move on to the last piece of the puzzle here. The last thing we'll talk about today. You watched a film from last year that is now on Peacock for streaming.
Yes. Speaking of Paradise,
Yes,
This
you
is
got
Tickets to Paradise.
Ticket, I believe. It's just Ticket, singular, to
Is
Paradise.
it tickets?
I think it's Ticket to Paradise.
Aren't there 2 tickets to Paradise?
I mean, in the song, yes. But Eddie Money's not here. George Clooney is. Tell me
Yes.
about Ticket to Paradise.
Yes, George Clooney and Julia Roberts star in the
yes.
romantic comedy Ticket to Paradise, where their daughter, who recently graduated from law school,
Mhm.
takes her month-long vacation, duly noted because she graduated from law school, and has an internship and job already lined up in Chicago, to Bali for a month
Okay.
to blow off steam, where she meets and is betrothed to one of the people there who runs a seaweed fishing company.
Uh-huh.
So her parents, who are divorced, both George Clooney and
You just said.
yes, not Sandra Bullock. I don't know why that comes to my mind. Go to Bali to try and break them up. They
Right.
come together to break them up, and thus the comedy ensues.
Yes. Is this all right? I remember thinking the trailers were kind of funny, but not funny enough for me to actually want to spend money on seeing this in the theater. Was this a worthwhile time on streaming?
Oddly enough, I don't know if it's because of just the chemistry that George Clooney has,
Mhm.
just on-screen personality,
Sure.
but I had a smile on my face the whole time watching
All
it.
right. Okay.
It's actually a good movie. I mean, I'm kind of glad I didn't spend money to go watch it in theaters.
Sure.
Might have had a different experience with it, but you know, having a date night at home that you can put this on and like cuddle up and watch it and just kind of laugh with it and be lovey with it because it is a love story after all, not just a love story
Right.
of the soon to be lawyer who, by the way, does not end up going back to being a lawyer, just ends up being married here.
Right. Right.
Um, and the parents, divorced parents, wanting to rekindling their love and
Yeah.
coming back together. It just puts a smile on your face. It's a happy,
Aw.
good, lucky, feel good movie that, well, I mean, being in the Bali setting, I mean, it wasn't actually Bali, it was Hawaii, but same thing. Being in a
Yeah.
tropical setting just keeps putting a smile on your face. The shenanigans that they get into, it's a fine date night film.
All right.
Grab some popcorn,
Alright.
cuddle up in a blanket, and watch it with your significant other. It's just a feel good film. It's like, huh, that's kind of funny, but also like, huh, they're kind of in love. The beats are very note for note and road for road.
Okay.
But overall, it's a fine film. I'm glad I didn't spend money on it, but it's on Peacock. We have Peacock, so
yeah.
it's worth at least checking out on Peacock.
Fair enough. Okay.
And I'll say Peacock just one more time.
It's Peacock. That's a solid stream it.
It's
sounds
definitely
like.
a solid stream it.
All right, cool.
And I figured that's what it was when I saw the trailer for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, happy to say that it is indeed a good streaming film.
All right. Fair enough. Well, I didn't watch any movies, so that I guess will do it for the movie section here on the Media Boat podcast. And that'll do it for this week's episode.
Hey, we did hit 2 hours.
I told you we wouldn't. Thank you for joining us this week. We'll be back next week for another episode. If you want to see that in video form, check out our YouTube channel. Go to YouTube and search Media Boat Podcast. You'll find our channel. We have archives of our previous live shows, as well as some bonus stuff if you dig deep enough. You can also click on the bell to see when we go live, get notifications when we go live, say, like next week when we do another live show on Saturdays. If you would rather listen in audio form on your podcast service of choice, search Media Boat Podcast on all sorts of places like Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, wherever you listen to podcasts. We're there. Search us, and that's also where you can find bonus episodes like Year-End Wrap-Up and our March Madness series. You can also find us on social media, where we're at Media Boat Cast on Twitter, and Media Boat Podcast. Search that in Facebook, and you'll find our page there too. You can also find our archive on MediaBoatPodcast.com. You can also see write-ups of thoughts. You have a story up about Pressure Cooker, the Netflix reality show about cooking, up on the website now if you want to read more about that. We'll have more thoughts coming in the future as well, so stay tuned. You can also email us if you have questions, comments, thoughts about the show, feedback for us. If you email us at mediaboatpodcast@gmail.com. You might even have your question read on the air on the podcast, so do so. So email us, mediaboatpodcast@gmail.com. Last but not least, we stream video games on Twitch. Twitch.tv/mediaboat is where you'll go for that. This past week, we had Mike jumped on and played some Melody of Memory, played some Disney songs for you live.
Yep.
You can see random streams like that anytime. We'll have more coming, I'm sure, on the way, so stay tuned. And that will do it. Thank you for joining us this week. We'll be back next week for more thoughts about all sorts of things, more news about all sorts of things. You name it, we got it for you. Tune in.
Yep, we'll be back next week with more news, more thoughts, who's going to be in the NFL championship game.
We'll find out.
And more of us.
All right, so stay tuned. See you guys next time.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Hey, we did it. Hour and a half.
Gave you 30 more minutes there.